I always thought that retirement by the lake would be peaceful. My wife and I had worked hard, saved carefully, and finally decided to buy a small but charming waterfront property. The house wasn't new, and it wasn't glamorous, but the dock was the real jewel. It stretched just far enough into the water for morning fishing, sunset reading, or docking a small boat. For me, that dock symbolized everything I've been working toward: freedom, tranquility, and the right to enjoy my own slice of the world. But life has a way of testing your patience when you least expect it. From the moment we moved in, our neighbor, Karen, made her presence known. She wasn't the friendly type to bring over cookies or wave from her porch. No, she introduced herself with a list of rules, regulations, and warnings about the proper way to maintain property in the neighborhood. As the self-appointed enforcer of our HOA, she took it upon herself to monitor every square inch of shoreline. Her tone was polite on the surface, but it carried the same edge you'd hear in a teacher scolding a child. At first, I brushed it off. I wasn't looking for conflict. After a career of long hours and stressful meetings, I just wanted to sit on that dock, breathe, and listen to the water lap against the posts. But Karen seemed to feed on confrontation. She complained about the color of our shutters, the length of our grass, even the wind chimes my wife hung outside the kitchen window. Each note she left in our mailbox grew a little bolder, more personal, more entitled. The breaking point came on a warm summer morning. I had just finished sanding a section of the dock, preparing to reseal it, when Karen appeared in her oversized sun hat and sunglasses. Her voice carried before she even stepped onto the gravel path. "You know that dock isn't yours, right?" she announced, as though she were delivering an official decree. I looked at her, confused. "Of course it's mine. It came with the property. It's in the deed." She smirked the way someone does when they think they're 10 steps ahead. "Actually, the HOA has certain shared rights over waterfront access. And since you haven't filed the proper paperwork, I'm afraid you will need to vacate. Effective immediately." Her words stunned me. Vacate? My own dock? It wasn't just audacity, it was a direct challenge. I told her calmly that I had reviewed every line of the purchase documents and that the dock was explicitly listed as private property. She crossed her arms and said she would escalate this matter and have me evicted from my own dock within the hour. Something in me snapped then. Maybe it was the months of passive-aggressive harassment, or maybe it was the sheer absurdity of the moment. But I realized I wasn't going to let her bully me into surrendering what was rightfully mine. I glanced over her shoulder and saw her prized pontoon boat bobbing gently in the water, tethered to the dock, my dock. She always bragged about that boat, throwing little parties on it with her friends from the HOA board. And here it was, sitting snugly against the very structure she claimed didn't belong to me. That's when the idea hit me. Without another word, I walked past her, untied the ropes, and stepped onto the pontoon. Her jaw dropped. "What are you doing? You can't touch my boat." I started the engine with a steady hand, years of boating experience rushing back to me. The motor roared to life, and I eased it away from the dock. "If this dock isn't mine," I called over the sound of the engine, "then I guess you won't mind me removing your boat from it." The look on her face was priceless. Anger mixed with disbelief, a flash of panic that someone had finally turned her own tactics against her. She yelled, threatened to call the police, threatened to call the HOA president, threatened everything she could think of. But all her words seemed powerless as I steered her beloved pontoon toward the public marina just down the shoreline. By the time I tied it up her rental slip and left a note explaining the situation to the marina manager, she had already called half the county, or so it seemed. When I returned home, she was pacing on her porch, phone in hand, glaring as though I'd committed some grand act of piracy. Sure enough, the sheriff showed up not long after. He was a patient man, the kind you could tell had dealt with far stranger calls. Karen leapt into a tirade, claiming theft, trespassing, and God knows what else. I simply handed him a folder with the property documents, including the section clearly stating the dock was mine and mine alone. The sheriff read through the paperwork, nodded, and then turned to Karen. "Ma'am, according to this, his dock is private property. That means his dock has rules. You've been tying your boat there without permission. That could actually be considered trespassing on his part, not the other way around." Karen's face went pale. For once, she didn't have a quick comeback. I didn't press charges. I wasn't interested in revenge. I just wanted peace. But from that day on, she no longer parked her pontoon on my dock. In fact, she avoided me altogether, a shadow of the self-important enforcer she once was. Over time, word spread through the neighborhood. Neighbors who had quietly suffered under Karen's heavy-handed rule began stopping by to share their own stories. They laughed about how I had turned the tables, and some even admitted they wished they had done something similar. A strange thing happened after that. The community grew warmer. People waved more, stopped for conversations, even invited us over for barbecues. It was as if standing up to her had loosened a knot that had been tightening around all of us. Sitting on the dock one evening, I thought about how easy it would have been to let her walk all over me, to retreat into silence rather than stir up trouble. But that dock wasn't just about wood and nails. It represented fairness, respect, and the idea that no one should let fear or intimidation strip away their peace. The lesson I took from it wasn't about boats or HOAs, though. It was about boundaries, the kind we draw to protect not only our property, but our dignity. Karen thrived on control because so many people were unwilling to push back. Once someone finally did, her power crumbled. I realized, too, that standing your ground doesn't always mean shouting louder or fighting dirtier. Sometimes it just means acting decisively, with the quiet confidence that comes from knowing you are in the right. For me, that action was as simple as untying a boat and letting the truth do the rest. Now, every time I walk down to the water and step onto my dock, I feel an even deeper appreciation for it. It isn't just a place to fish or watch sunsets. It's a reminder that peace must sometimes be defended, that respect is earned, and that bullies, no matter how loud or entitled, only have the power you give them. And in the end, Karen gave me an unexpected gift. By trying to evict me from my own dock, she reminded me of something far greater: the importance of standing tall, even in retirement, even when all you want is peace and quiet. Because sometimes the calmest waters are found after the storm.